Joanna. How are you today?
I'm doing good, Max. It's Friday here when we're
It,
recording.
it is
You ready
Friday.
for the you ready for the weekend?
I am very ready for the weekend, but only until we spend some time talking about the employee experience in the contact center, because that's what I'm going to spend my weekend thinking about and going over. So maybe we could mull that for a little bit.
I'm impressed, Max. I'm impressed that that's what you're going to spend your weekend doing.
Yeah, and if you believe that, I've got some real estate in Florida we can talk about. Um,
Perfect.
yeah, but you know what? I, I was just on a webinar uh, last week, and we had three different companies and high level management, C-suite people from those three companies talking about customer experience and the contact center. And what was really exciting to me was, normally with a group like that, there's, oh, customers are important, woohoo! But these guys were really sincere about it. And what they said over and over and in five different ways was our agents are critical. A good employee experience means I'm going to have a good customer experience, because it is the agent who is the person that is the face. And when they're empowered and when they're able to do their thing, um, it's they can do it and they can become really powerful. And you know, you and I can talk about that all we want, but it's when the people running the contact centers that actually embrace that it makes a difference. And that was what was exciting to me.
Right, right. I love that it was the C-suite that you were talking to, not just contact center management, not VPs of the contact center, but the C-level who are defining the strategy for the company and know that employee experience goes hand in hand with customer experience.
Yeah, and the other place this went was really talking a little about technology in the contact center and the moving to the cloud and work from home, which we're all doing a lot of. And there's a lot of talk about how the role of an agent is going to change, and how it's actually evolving for them already. And things like more automation and more of a move to digital. The simple stuff, more and more and more, is going to be handled by bots or whatever sort of automation. And there's going to be more of the agent's job becomes more being the expert. And one of the things we talked about that
Mhm.
I thought was really interesting was, as you do work from home, and we have a couple, you've heard me talk about a couple of our customers that work this way. Um, you when you're not hiring within an hour of your office, you've got a lot more flexibility about the expertise that you can hire. And agents are going to start looking more and more like knowledge workers. And because they're not going to be saying where's the nearest branch, and they're not, all the simple stuff the systems will do. And we talked about it in terms of skill and knowledge and depth. But I was thinking, I want to kind of throw this over to you. And one of the things you talk a lot about is the agent as an empathy worker and kind of that piece. So I thought maybe you could talk a little about how you see that fitting and how that can change.
Yeah, you highlighted a ton of great stuff there, Max. In terms of bots, for instance, I just read this week that by 2025, it's estimated that 30% of contacts will be handled by bots. And so, as you think about this, as you think about that upskilling of agents, empathy has definitely been a trend that we have seen really take off since COVID hit. It's really garnering that common connection with the customers, building trust, building confidence with your brand. And empathy is the number one thing you can do. And so, those front end agents and those front end employees that are interacting with the customers really need to exhibit that level of empathy, which brings me to a great story as well. I had read about Ritz Carlton, and Ritz, it's well known for customer experience and going above and beyond customer expectations. And one of their mottos is to take care of the customer. And they give the frontline workers a high dollar um, budget per se of you can take care of the customer up to this amount and then get approval. And it again, it's a pretty generous amount. And so there was an example of a customer who had stayed with them at a Ritz Carlton and had left his laptop there. He took
Mm.
off for Hawaii and realized that he had left his laptop there. He was going on a business trip and desperately needed it. So he calls the Ritz that he stayed at in a complete panic, complete frenzy, explaining the situation, asking what he could do, what they could do to get the laptop to him as quickly as possible. So the housekeeper took it upon herself to find the laptop, which she did successfully, and took it to the airport and boarded the next flight to Hawaii to
No way.
hand deliver that laptop to her. And so with that, I mean, you think about that and you're like, whew, that is out there. That's really out there in terms of
I mean,
uh,
I could see going to a shipping desk and putting it on some sort of freight thing or something, but actually physically taking it. Wow.
I know, pretty amazing. But you think about it from the customer point of view. That customer is going to be a customer for life at that point, going
Yeah.
above and beyond and hand delivering that to him in Hawaii is remarkable. And so the Ritz loves telling this story. And for a number of reasons. Number one, was it probably the right answer? Maybe not. There's better ways to get the laptop to their customer, like you had mentioned, Max, going to a shipping company and getting it on the next flight shipped rather than taking it over yourself. But that said, she took it upon herself, thought of the solution to really delight the customer and did it and made sure that she took care of the customer. And so she did not get reprimanded for this. Were there lessons to be learned? Absolutely. And of course there were discussions about how better to handle the situation. But what I love about this story is number one, agent empowerment, employee empowerment.
Yeah.
With that, you do take a risk as a company. Your agents, your employees are not going to get it right 100% of the time, but their intent is to take care of the customer. And they know that you've got their back. And so with that, the Ritz made that commitment not um, to not discipline for making the wrong decision or not the optimal decision. The right decision was taking care of the customer, which she did.
Right. Right.
It, and it was a learning experience. It's a learning coaching experience, not just for her, but for the entire organization of how could we handle this better. And that is the type of environment and culture that really drives customer experience forward and ensures that you delight the customer at every opportunity that you possibly can.
That's just a crazy story. And it begs one really important question. Did she then like go to the local Ritz and say, "Hey, I'm here. How about if I stay here for a couple days?" And
You would think, right?
that's what I
Because when I
do.
first read that, I'm like, more than likely she got a vacation out of this. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not a bad gig. But the remainder of the story, they told what happened next. She didn't stay there. She didn't even stay overnight there. She went directly back to the airport, got on the next plane back to where she worked. So that goes to show you she wasn't in it for a free trip to Hawaii.
Right.
She
Right.
wasn't in it to go sightsee. She was in it for the customer. And, I've got to believe that that was a really long day for her. But she
Yeah.
did everything in her means to delight that customer.
Wow. That's a wild story. And you know, I it's interesting because obviously this is a housekeeper, not a contact center agent, but it
Right.
so resonates and it's so You're right. I mean, the empathy of, oh my gosh, this poor guy doesn't have his laptop, and I know what that would be like for me if I didn't have mine. Um, that's just so powerful that
It
she
is,
did
it
that.
is, and you're absolutely right, Max, in terms of this can be contact center scenarios. No longer can agent calls be fully scripted. No longer can your quality program be looking for phrases, unless it's compliance, of course. It is, did they take care of the customer? Did they do everything that they could to delight the customer?
That's great. Well, thank you. I'm glad we went through that. That's a really fascinating story, and I think it sums up the importance of employees in the contact center better than any other way I could think to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it gives you something more to think about over the weekend as
There you
you're
go. I'll
pondering
I'll
employee experience.
I'll think about carrying laptops to Hawaii.
There you go. There you go. Well, have a great weekend, Max. It's great talking to you.
Same here. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you next time, Joanna.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks.